Aelens, welcome. You're General Manager Continental Western Europe at Orsted Offshore. Can you tell us more about Orsted?
Yes, of course. Ørsted is the global market leader with regards to offshore wind development. Ørsted has been in the business for a long time. We basically built the first offshore wind farm ever in 1990. It was called Vindeby. The funny thing about it was the size. It was 0.5 megawatt kinds of turbines, 11 of them, adding up to 5 megawatt for the full wind farm, which is surprising because these days we see wind turbines in the market of 7, 8, going to 10, 12 megawatts and even further. So we've seen the growth in the industry and have been a part of it. And today we are the one having constructed and operated most turbines in the world. At the same time, we are on a journey of transformation towards a green, totally green company. Because of that, we've also rebranded our company. Till some years ago, we had a different name, Dong Energy. Now we are focusing on renewables. In a world that runs entirely on green energy is our new vision and mission. A new name comes with it. We're also walking the talk in the sense that we are decarbonizing our own production assets, going to almost 100% green by 2023. Costs have come down. Offshore wind costs have come down significantly, which also means that Ørsted has been expanding its footprint lately significantly, moving from Denmark into Northwest Europe, but now also going into countries like US, Southeast Asia, where the potential for offshore wind is also big given the cost of the technology these days. And on the other hand, it's of course also true that we're looking into new markets in Europe. And France is obviously a market with a lot of potential, which we're looking into as well.
Thank you very much. To your right is Philippe de Cacqueray. Philippe de Cacqueray, welcome.
Good afternoon.
You're Vice President Offshore Wind Development at Total. Can you tell us more about Total?
Sure. So Total today, it's mostly an ambition. The ambition to become the major of the responsible energy. What does it stand for? It stands for an energy which is firstly abundant, second which is clean, and thirdly which is affordable. Why clean? Because Total is committed to the 2-degree scenario of the International Energy Agency. And why affordable? Because we do think in Total that a cheap bill for the end consumer is the number one guarantee of a sustainable energy transition. And then offshore wind is of evidence for us. See the unit size of the projects, see the load factors of these projects, most of the time beyond 50%. So it's evidently part of our business. So we have decided to grow in that business, and this is what is ahead of us now.
Thank you very much. To your right is Thierry Aelens. Thierry Aelens, bonjour. Welcome, sorry.
Welcome.
You're Offshore Project Director for Elicio. Can you explain who Elicio is?
Hello. Elicio is a Belgian project developer. It's a relatively young company. We started in 2014. We are a pure renewable player. We do only wind. Onshore wind in France, in Belgium, but also in Serbia, Kenya, and offshore exclusively up to date in Belgium, where we are investing in several wind farms and recently completed the largest offshore Belgian wind farm, Northa, where we are the largest shareholder and act as owner and operator. And offshore wind is one of our main vectors of development, and therefore we have decided to step out of Belgium. Being the local player, we are only 50 kilometers from home here, so we started the easy way by not going too far, just across the border.
And your three companies are today gathering, partnering in a major project, offshore project that will be decided in a few days along Dunkirk coast. What's your specific approach on this project?
As I just mentioned, we decided to go across the border. And when this project was announced, if you look at the history, it didn't raise interest from everybody. Some people, the project went even unnoticed. But us, we decided to qualify, not knowing what was expected of us. It was a brand new system, Dunkirk, dialogue compétitif, for the first time in France being applied. So a lot of unknown. So we just qualified based on our existing Belgian experience, got pre-selected and started the process. It appeared quite quickly that this was one number too big for us alone, and that we needed very strong reinforcement. Based on the specificities of Dunkirk, we started to look on the market what was available, but especially who was not yet involved in Dunkirk. And then we consider ourselves extremely lucky to have been able to find those two partners. We think that the three of us just bringing our local knowledge, we form a very strong consortium.
Philippe de Cacqueray, do you want to give us some details on why Total decided to join this project?
So we decided to join that project for different reasons. So, as explained, offshore wind is of the evidence now in our new framework to be committed to a better energy, to a clean energy, to an affordable energy. So then it was quite obvious for us to start with the closest project to come, which was obviously Dunkirk. We are here in Dunkirk since decades. We have in Dunkirk our first training center, Elicio. We have in Dunkirk our largest fuel warehousing capacity. And then something which has been maybe a bit forgotten, we started development of offshore wind in Dunkirk in the early 2000s. It was a zone on the northwestern waters of Dunkirk's harbour. But at the time we started the first development. So we had a past in that respect. Then Dunkirk was of the evidence. Even if we started quite late in the process, then we decided to move very fast because it was so obvious for us to participate. And then we met a few developers which were already qualified. And then it was very important for us to join the one qualified with the deepest roots, so to say, into the territory. And it appeared in our mind that Elicio was of that kind. We were quite impressed by the work they performed since the beginning of the procedure. And then, on our side, we decided to add all what we can in terms of capacity to bring a territorial partnership, increasing the socio-eco benefits for the territory, professional training around oleum, and other more concrete but more also confidential aspects that we are in our bid. So definitely we think that we are rooted in the territory. This is what we can bring on the table, and even if we come from the oil and gas, in our DNA we have the experience of the operations at sea, and then we think that this is obvious for us to participate.
Thank you very much. Stephen Engels, if you want to conclude and tell us what was the motivation in Orsted to join the consortium.
Yes, and well, as we've touched upon it already, for all good reasons, offshore wind is a globalizing industry. We have our roots in Denmark and Northwest Europe, UK, Germany, the Netherlands, but we're expanding. It's becoming a global industry. So we are going outside of Europe, US, Asia, but we're also exploring other markets in Europe. And we think France has a big potential. It has a big wind resource, that's for sure, the second biggest in Europe. So that's the first thing. And secondly, the administrative processes, the way the tender system is set up has changed, which makes it more attractive. And then thirdly, as explained already, we think that we have a very strong consortium with the 3 companies involved. A company that's deeply rooted in the region locally due to its activities with regards to the tender in the last years. Total in France, of course, very big French company with a lot of local activities as well in Dunkirk. A big history here, and then ourselves bringing in the expertise and the knowledge with regards to offshore wind. We have been building up over the many years that we've been doing this.
So I guess the adventure of offshore wind will continue far beyond Dunkirk for the 3 of you, with great perspective on the market as well.
Yes, we think that the French market has a lot of potential, as mentioned. Not only the French market, the European market in general and beyond. Offshore wind has become a cheap resource. It's something people tend to forget. It's only a couple of years ago that the biggest disadvantage of offshore wind was the cost. This has totally changed. Offshore wind's competitive with new build conventional technologies these days. It's a rather good choice for governments to support, because it does not only bring clean and affordable energy at a large scale, but it also creates, it's produced locally, so it creates jobs locally in coastal areas which often need jobs and economic activity. It's about building a supply chain and creating a fabric around offshore wind development, which is much more than the electron. So also there, I think France has a big potential.
So for Total, we do believe in the potential of that market, of that business, but we are not the first to enter that field. So we are quite humble here, but we do think that we have the means to also take part of that great adventure. So we have started with Dunkirk. Let's see what will be the outcome, but we will continue whatever the results, which we hope to be positive. So we will start obviously by the upcoming tenders in France. And we do hope that whatever the outcome again, Dunkirk will shift the mindset in regard of the offshore wind. It will be evidently the cheapest renewables. And then we do think that the long-term energy plan of the government will be most likely accelerated once the bids are disclosed or the outcome disclosed. And then we will participate for sure. If we are slightly lagging behind in the bottom fixed part of that industry, we do think that floating is a promising technology. And here we are all starting from the same line, I would say, even if we must stay modest compared to the number 1 of that market. Here we will put much effort. We do think that here our expertise in sea operations coming from the oil and gas can be transferred in a valuable manner to the floating technology. So we'll participate not only to bottom fixed tenders, but also to most likely floating tenders, and then also most likely beyond France, but I cannot say much at that stage. We are ramping up quite steeply, but still we do start.
Thank you. Thierry, Aelens, what about your perspective at Elicio?
A lot more modest than those of my colleagues, more in line with the size of our company. But we also believe, of course, in offshore, which has now become the largest part of our business, bigger than onshore. Also looking at bottom fixed and floating, but with a geographical scope which will be a lot smaller than my colleagues, will definitely not leave Europe at this stage. And we will always try to bring to the table what we have tried to bring here, that local partnership, local development. We are at heart a developer. We're not a utility yet, but we are growing and at our pace.
Thank you very much and have a nice day ahead.